you kind of break down what does it mean to be a lion, what does it mean to be a scavenger, and you don't do it in purely right versus left.
No, I don't think it's a right versus left thing.
No.
I even think it's a personal thing, meaning I think that if you take it to the personal level, there's a part of all of us that wants to build, and there's a part of all of us that wants to destroy. And the easiest thing in the world when we face a problem is to say that it's somebody else's fault, that it's a system's fault, and we should tear down the system. Sometimes it is the system's fault, but you actually have to have evidence of that. And then there's the part of us that wants to build. And you get to wake up every morning and decide whether you want to build or whether you want to destroy. And civilizationally, do we want to build or do we want to destroy things? And again, I'm not talking here about unjust systems where you can show the evidence for why it's unjust and whom it's victimizing. I'm talking about the Zohran Mamdanification of America, the sort of idea that America is a victimizing oppressor party and all the institutions need to be laid low so that Zohran Mamdani and his friends can feel better about themselves, even though they, again, are the greatest beneficiaries of American freedom and prosperity in the history of all of humanity. And so what you've seen, I think, over the course of the last couple of decades is the rise of what I call the scavengers, this coalition of people who I essentially have three categories of scavengers. They're barbarians, they're looters, and they're lechers. Barbarians are people who believe that we have made their civilization poor. It largely comes from outside the United States. I think there's a big gathering of them in Detroit. Scavengers who basically say that America is an awful place, an exploitative place, an oppressive place that has made the rest of the world poorer and terrible. And then they import that into our borders. And then there are looters, people who believe that free markets, private property, equal application of the law, these are actually biased. And what we need is a system that benefits people, quote unquote, like me. So Marxism definitely falls into
like the Democratic Socialists of America.
Exactly. And then you have lechers, people who believe that family and church are a threat to them because their own identity is wrapped up in behavior that family and church pose a threat to, and so family and church need to be wiped away. And the reason I say they're a coalition is because you see them acting coalitionally. It's very weird. Like they should be mutually exclusive. Barbarians and lechers in particular. It's very weird to watch Queers for Palestine.
Yeah,
sort of like
right.
Sort of like the apex example of this. People who would be thrown off of buildings in Gaza who are out there standing for Gaza, and you're like, why? Because the answer is they just don't like the civilization as a whole. It's not that they want to live in Gaza. It's that they believe the civilization that is responsible for the terrible situation in Gaza and is also responsible for the terrible situation I find myself in personally because I'm not accepted at my local family dinner. That those are the same civilization. They need to be torn down, so we're all going to march together en masse.
Right.
And you see, I think Mamdani is like a perfect example of this since we're in New York anyway. I mean, he is like a perfect example of this. You look at his coalition, and it's like radical Islamists and radical transgender advocates and abortionists and communists. Like, what do all these people have in common? And the answer is they hate all of the good things. That's the thing that they have in common. They want to tear down all of these good things.
It makes perfect sense, actually. And to me, one of the pieces that resonated with me was you wrote something to the effect of, you don't have to have like a conscious philosophy with which you're going through life in order to be a lion. Like you can just be a person, let's say a strong person with moral convictions, a person of faith, a person who knows how they're raising their children. And there was one piece in there that really resonated where you were saying the difference between a lion and a scavenger, among others, is a lion would never sit around saying, this is so unfair.
Right.
Poor me. The whole attitude is just very un-lion-esque. And you either teach that to your children or you don't. You may have a philosophy around it. It may be on the board as one of your family values, or it may just be something that a parent says to a kid, which is like, no, stop doing that. We don't do that in this family. That's not a healthy, positive way of thinking.
And if you don't pass it down to your kids end up becoming scavengers.
Because the society is just filled with them, and they're trying to convert your child into a scavenger at every turn, K through 12 and beyond. 100%.
And also, I think there's a natural thing that lions do that has made us very vulnerable. And I speak here just for people who believe that duty is the way that you do life, that you get up in the morning, you figure what's your duty, and you do those things. But one of the things that Western civilization does differently than a lot of other civilizations is that we're a guilt-based culture as opposed to a shame-based culture. So we're a culture where we actually value the feeling of internal guilt. It shows that you're a good person, right? That you recognize your own mistakes, you try to correct those mistakes. Shame-based cultures don't worry about what you're feeling internally with regard to guilt. They are interested in avoiding shame. And so what that means is they want to shame you. And so this imbalance between kind of guilt cultures and shame cultures explains why the whole cancel culture thing went out of control. Because there were a bunch of people who would traditionally be considered lions who were like somebody would call them out for a sin. They'd say, oh, you know what? That's true. I have sinned. I could have done better. And then people would stomp on their neck and be like, wait, that's not what's supposed to happen.
Right.
When I express guilt, I'm supposed to get forgiveness at the other end of that. The religious concept of repentance is I acknowledge sin In return, I am restored, right? That's the basic idea. And we have an entire side of the culture that says if you acknowledge sin, you have been shamed, and being shamed is shameful, right? You are lesser now because you acknowledged your own guilt. And so people do this, and they don't understand. If you pass on to your kids a sense of guilt without a sense of pride in your civilization and in your duty and in the important things to do, what you end up with is a bunch of kids who are ashamed of who they are. And they end up trying to dissociate from their own civilization. And they only feel good when they're doing that. And this is why you see so many of sort of the scavengers not appearing in the poorest areas of America. A lot of those people are lions. What you end up seeing is them appearing on very rich college campuses, having parents who are earning in six figures. Because they're saying, I don't want to be like my shame-ridden parents, these terrible people who have made the world an exploited place. I'm different. I'm not like them. And so you see them marching in the streets, hundreds of thousands strong in some places, in solidarity with destroying a civilization they've benefited from. And again, I keep going back to Mamdani, but he's like a perfect example. I mean, no one has grown up richer and more privileged in America than Zohran Mamdani. And he's walking around trying to rip down everything that makes success possible.
And also, like so many of these scavengers, he's accomplished nothing.
Nothing.
He has absolutely nothing on his resume to point to. Lisa Cook is way more qualified to be mayor of New York than he is.
She wrote a paper one time.
She did. Exactly. She did get that tenure. No matter how she got it, she did get it. It's more than we can say for him. The person I keep thinking of when you're talking about this, because she's on my list of things to ask you about today, because I just find her amusing, is Greta Thunberg. So she embodies the scavengers.
Lord Farquaad?
Exactly. Totally. And also Little Lord Fauntleroy, both kind of all in one.
She's got the He-Man haircut now?
Yes. It's very odd. I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you're Greta Thunberg, your goal when you wake up in the morning should not be to say, how can I make myself look less attractive? It should not. You're good. You can stay. You're at the point where you can say, I hold. I don't need anything additional. I don't need the haircut. With the bangs up here and the curl down. She's back.
David Birch, Iowa Hawk, had a great line. He said that she has now surpassed the Gary Coleman record for playing a 10-year-old the longest.
For playing a 10-year-old the longest, totally. Yes, because, she not only is scavenger-esque, and the book, again, is called Lions and Scavengers by Ben Shapiro. It's out now. Get it. It's a great social, cultural, moral commentary on where we are as a world, not to mention a country. But she's not only a scavenger, she represents something else, which is how scavengers elevate other scavengers, how they see it in like a certain individual and they genuinely admire it. It's not fake, their admiration for somebody like that. She's taught in schools. I mean, every single school we've been at 4 of them because we were at the 2 in New York before we fled, and now 2 out here. She gets mentioned as like someone for these kids to look up to. So she's gone from, do we have the thought of making predictions about, world calamity that did not come true, to now making all sorts of pronouncements on Israel because, why not?
Why not?
It tracks.
Geopolitical expert, yes.
Here she is, just as a flavor for those who have forgotten.
You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
Why is it so important to stay below 1.5 degrees Celsius? Because even at 1 degree, people are dying from climate change. Because that is what the United Science calls for. To avoid destabilizing the climate so that we have the best possible chance to avoid setting off irreversible chain reactions. Every fraction of a degree matters.
I feel like we're doing okay.
Yes.
Just for the first time, one of the Arctic ice shelves grew this past summer. Like, I feel pretty good about where we are. I think that's why she got off the climate change bandwagon.
I had a rule, and the rule was until she was 18, I couldn't make fun of her, right? Because we have this stupid game that we play in the media where if somebody trots out like a child actor, which she is, I mean, she actually is like a child actor, and then you're not allowed to criticize because they're not of majority. Well, she's like 35 years old now.
Right.
And so we can make fun of her as much as we could possibly want. But she is a perfect embodiment of what people have called the omnicause. Right, that what she actually is in favor of is like all the things, right? She went from climate change seamlessly over to Gaza because it's all the same thing, which is, I just hate the civilization. I hate capitalism.
When inflation jumps, when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Well, you'd be right. Whether as a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during global instability, or just for sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold. And so they created something special. Until September 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit right now. Just text MK to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate in free metals of up to $10,000. So make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy before September 30th. Text MK to the number 989898 to claim your eligibility and get your free info kit. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.